Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to join us for lunch, depending of your time zone. We have participants from across North America and Europe. So thank you so much for your participation to this event, Process Intelligence in the Age of Agentic AI. What we will do today, we will help you understand how Agentic AI can help you automate your process. And before that, use process mining to understand the performance and the compliance issues. Some housekeeping issues before we start. This webinar will last 60 minutes. You will be muted, but you're really much we would appreciate your interaction. So if you want to submit questions during the webinar, please use the tool within the GoToMeeting, and we will keep between 5 and 10 minutes at the end of the session to answer the questions that you have submitted during the presentation. My name is Frédéric Brosseau. I'm partner at Levio, responsible for process intelligence. I will take the first 5 minutes to present to you some background about process intelligence, how it has evolved over time, and how you can use the combination of process mining and agentic AI to optimize your process. During this presentation, we will have a real-life scenario. So we have developed a demonstration for you. Jesse will be able to, and Jesse is Senior Manager, Solution Engineering at Apromore. Jesse will be able to walk you through the case of an insurance company that is using Salesforce to manage most of his business. And Jesse will be able to show you how Apromore state-of-the-art process mining engine will able to leverage the information within Salesforce and other system in this insurance company to identify the challenges that this insurance company has with compliance and performance. And then Valérie Delaurier, who's our partner Salesforce marketing practice lead at Levio, will take over for Jesse and we'll be able to dig down into Salesforce, specifically AgentForce, and develop agents that will solve the issues that Jesse will have highlighted. And Jesse will also have a simulation on how this AgentForce agent can perform before Valérie takes over. Now, I mentioned that the use case that we've used is the case of an insurance company using Salesforce, but a specific type of claim that we and customer experience that we'll present is something that I understand, Valérie, you went through personally, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. If you go to the next slide. So, hi everyone. This is my very own picture that I took in my kayak when I was in a flood crisis. So this is my house. We had average 3 feet of water everywhere in the house, the kitchen, the living room. And so you can imagine that I was in a state where I really needed my claim insurance very quickly. Not only that, but also provisional credit because we had no clothes. We had nowhere else to go sleep either. I have 2 kids, a dog, and a cat, right? So I needed money quickly in this emergency situation. And so we thought it would be interesting to use this specific use case with an insurance company regarding a flood crisis like this one. So just FYI, this happened back in 2019 in a city called Saint-Martin-sur-le-Lac, a province of Canada, Quebec. Um, so I really needed that money very quickly, and we decided to use this use case as using the processes, going through the processes of an insurance company. How can we improve all the little steps that you need to go through for a provisional credit claim to make the experience of the customer as fast and the best as possible? Because when you're living a crisis like I did, you need help quickly. And so the insurance company need to be able to reply and help their customers quickly. So this is what we'll use today as the use case.
Awesome. So as you can see, customer service is really important if you're an insurance company. Delivering good customer service at the time most needed will be the key factor for renewal of your claims, and then your reputation is at stake. we will see during this presentation that through the process, we need to optimize cycle time, which is the customer experience impact. We want to minimize the processing cost of these claims, and we want to make sure that the transaction is as risk-free as possible so that any segregation of duty and compliance issues are properly managed. Now, industry experts, I'm quoting here Gartner, say that when you're using process intelligence and hyperautomation, as we will present to you today, we can an organization in general can reduce their operational costs by up to 30%. Yet, in the last years, scholars have shown that in average, 87% of the digital transformation initiatives failed to meet at least some of their objectives. So either they develop way too long versus what was expected, or the ROI was not what was hoped. And one of the main reasons is that people start automation projects without having a good understanding of their end-to-end process. And this is really the value proposition that we have today. Process intelligence is really the combination, like it's that intersection between your process, your application, your data, and it combines a number of techniques. So today we will show you how process mining, dashboard, and automation through artificial intelligence works. I think there's a strong case to say that any of these tools by itself will provide value, but a limited value. Process mining is great, but it only gives you a X-ray of your process. It doesn't solve any problem by itself. At the other end of the spectrum, artificial intelligence, specifically Agentic AI, can automate a number of things. But if you don't have an end-to-end view of your process, like you're making things faster, but not if the process has not been streamlined first and optimized, you may have subpar results. At Levio, we have developed a process excellence framework. So before we work in any engagement, we take the time to work with our customer and have a clear view of what are their goals. So at a very simple level, there's two things that you can do with your process. You can improve and manage its performance, and in parallel, you can improve its compliance. And when we speak about performance improvement, at the end of the day, we're talking about reducing the operational cost. We're talking about reducing cycle time, and we're talking about improving quality, making things right the first time. And in order to deliver that, we need to look at the process, and there are three phases that we strongly recommend to take. The first one is the process discovery. Before taking any action, you really need to understand how the process works. Now, in many organizations, the work has been broken down into teams that are geographically into different locations. Like if you were 50 years back and you were working in a plant, you can walk the floor and understand where the bottlenecks are, where there's excess inventory, excess capacity, where people are idle, where people are overbooked. In a virtual world like we are today, you need tools to be able to have this visualization and understand for real how the process works from the beginning to the end across systems and teams. So this is a discovery first. Now, if you want to improve the dimensions that we mentioned before in terms of performance and compliance, you need to monitor your process and measure the current baseline performance. And once you've done the first two steps, then you can develop a portfolio of improvements. So it's very, very well aligned to continuous improvement programs, but you basically have a number of opportunities that arise. From there, you can simulate improvement, test them, and then deploy them into production. The first step is process mining. So for those that are not yet familiar to the concept, it's fairly simple. During the exploration phase of the process, you identify where are the timestamps of activities related to your process, and this would go into different systems. So in our example, most of the process takes place in Salesforce, but there's other systems to actually conduct the payment in this insurance company and the likes. So we pull information from the different systems where you have activities happening, you put it into a process warehouse, and basically you stitch the different activity tables from the different systems in one main table called an event log. From there, you can analyze and visualize the process, find the efficiency challenge, the compliance issues, and then you can publish dashboard so that a broader range of users, not only your process analysts, can monitor the process performance. Once we have a good grasp, then we want to look at automation. And I know Valérie, in a few minutes, will go deep down into that section. But at high level, historically, we had two broad categories of automation tools possible. We had low-code tools that could automate a process by breaking it down into systemic steps, and then the workflow would do hopefully most of the tasks automatically, but sometimes there's a task that needs to be given to the user to do, because there's some task that needs to have more intelligence. When there's an API, it's easy to read or write information into your operational systems, but sometimes there's no API available. So this is where we got robotic process automation that basically mimic a user into these applications. The breakthrough that came in the last few months is Agentic AI. So in Agentic AI, as you will see later, we don't need to break down the tasks like we had to do with low code or robotic process automation. We instead give the Agentic AI a goal. We say, okay, we want you to do that goal, and that agent will be able to do three things. It will be able to reasoning. So it will be able to say, okay, if I want to achieve that goal, here are the tasks that I need to do to reach this goal. It will learn. So we want to give the agent a reward system. We want to tell him part of the routine after a task is completed, the agent must be able to measure itself and say, okay, I did well on this, I did well on that, I missed on this. And the next time it will slightly adjust its behavior to maximize the reward system. And the third thing that an agent does or has as capability, it can understand how to interact with information system. So in a robotic process automation, as an example, if you would interact with a website, you need to be extremely specific on which page, on which button that the robot needs to click. With Agentic AI, in this example, the agent will go to a website and will be able to actually read the page and understand how to navigate by itself on the website. Now, you may ask yourself, okay, well, what's the relationship between process mining and Agentic AI? Well, process mining will help you find the best opportunities for agents to be developed. But once the agent is developed, that process warehouse is basically the history of all of the transactions that you did in the last year, as an example. So this is how the agent can learn. You don't need to develop the agent and have him or it work by itself. It will be able to look. It's like if you hired someone, but that someone has the cumulative experience of every single person in your company for the last year that has data in the process warehouse. So there's a lot of insights that enables the agent to perform probably much better than any human would be. And then through the dashboard, you will develop your KPIs. So we say, I want to reduce my cycle time. I want to improve my customer satisfaction. I want to reduce cost. And that becomes the reward system for the agent. Once the agent has completed a task, it will be able to look at the KPIs that you had for your process and understand how its behavior influence positively or negatively these KPIs, and then continuously adapt and improve by itself. So to this point, I hope that the foundation was clear. I will invite Jesse to take over and do an actual demonstration of the process mining Apromore tool that is used to understand that specific use case.
Thanks, Fred. Appreciate it. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Let's start off by where Fred left off. Let me go full screen. Great. So now let's dive in a little bit deeper and kind of peel the layers back, especially in regards to this process excellence framework. Now, if you remember Valerie's story, right, where where she needed to get access to funds relatively quickly within 24 hours. For this insurance company, their goal, especially in times of crisis and disasters, they wanted to reduce the overall resolution time or case handling from start to finish within 24 hours. But currently, one of their biggest challenge is that their current process is taking them on average over 30 days, uh, almost a month and a half, to resolve any of these. And even in the best of times, their negative customer experience or the length of time it caught, to get these issues resolved resulted in very poor NPS scores, right? And anecdotally, I mean, not anecdotally, they knew that there was also, when they needed to bypass the process, they had certain controls in place that was being bypassed, which was really putting the company at risk because there were segregation of duty that wasn't being adhered to. So their hypothesis was that how can we leverage AgentForce or agentic technology to not only improve and cut these resolution times, but at the same time ensure that they're not bypassing these essential controls, right? And thereby enhancing the overall customer experience. Uh, Now, in order to do that, as Fred kind of already touched on, especially now in the market or in the climate that we're uh, in order to take an advantage and leverage technologies, emerging technologies like agentic and agent force, the rapid rate of change is very, very high, right? And in order for you to understand your end-to-end process, the way people were doing it before really didn't lend itself to that, meaning they were doing this manually, anecdotally, doing interviews, sit with, time motion studies, workshops. And the business needed to, especially now, the business needs to change much more rapidly, right? And so that's really the dilemma that we're in which I'll kind of show you now how and kind of build that out. So Fred touched on earlier that within this process warehouse, you generate this event log, which is a combination of all of these different systems, taking the activities and the histories within those systems. And here it creates that single unified event log. And I'll kind of, before I show you what, this is the auto discovered process that based on that data. But let me paint a picture first on why the manual way of doing things really doesn't lend itself very well to having a complete comprehensive picture as well as accurate that's free of bias, right? So first off, within this process, this claims process, even though most of the activities are happening in Salesforce, there's a lot of different underlying systems that support that process. From maybe where the policies are stored, you have a dispute management system, you have a way to distribute the funds, right? So there's a lot of complexity there that you have to understand. To layer on that, now consider the types of people that are involved as part of that process. In the visual that I'll show you, or the process map that I'll show you, you'll see that there's 4 really different roles that play a part in this process. The case officer is the one that manages the case, especially when you're thinking about provisional credit and so forth. They're managing the case overall. But you have your documentation specialist doing research. If there's any dispute, it has to go through a dispute specialist. And then you have your CRE, which is communicating back and forth with the customer, right? Now, if you layer the individuals, if you were doing this manually, not only do you have to contend with the systems and understand the roles, but now you have to interview these individuals. In this case, I only had 49, but you can imagine for different processes, this could be quite exhaustive, right? And trying to get an accurate depiction of your process when talking to people, you might get something like this, right? And they might tell you, what they remember of their process. But if I was to expand what this process really looked like when I'm looking at 14,000 plus cases, I see that this process is not as straightforward as that initial visual. There's 33% variation, so that's almost 5,000 different paths that you could potentially take throughout this provisional credit or claims process. There's no way that you could interview that many people. And it's not because they don't want to tell you, it's that they don't remember. So the viewpoints that they're giving you is oftentimes very biased in that sense. And so if you were trying to implement something like Agentic and you're trying to guess at where to apply it, this is where the problem really comes into play. Now, some things to call out, and we'll be focusing specifically on when a case is opened and the individuals start to calculate, check policies, issue the provisional credit, send acknowledgments back to the customers, right? If you look here, the case duration right now, as I said, is 1.6 months on average, and it's costing us 1.5K, right? So keep those in mind. I won't go into the details on how I start to filter, but I've already created several views that that focuses on and specific to this portion of the process. Now, once we have that data, some of the things that we can do with it is that we can look at it from different dimensions. So from a frequency standpoint, I can look at where my process is inefficient, right? That is causing some of the delays. If you think about it, these are additional touch points of having to calculate the provisional credit, to check the policies, to then issue, send acknowledgments back and forth, negotiating with the customer and so forth before the end, right? So those additional steps and inefficiencies within the process extends that time frame to get it, right? If I look at it from a duration standpoint, now I can see that when calculating the provisional credit, checking the policies, those are taking over 2 hours to do individually on average, right? And those are highlighting, the darker the color for us in Apromore is indicative of the longer it takes to execute this particular step. So it's highlighting immediately visually where the hotspots are happening within the process. I can also see that there's this transition time between issuing a provisional credit to generating the initial offer to the customer. But this transition time, almost 3 days, this is a wait time. And that's indicative of resource constraints that are happening. And I can also see that there's, 2.5 days. So just in this part of the process itself, it's taking over 6 days on average to send funds to people who are without clothes, without a place to stay. And this could go, and even if you go outside of claims management, there's a lot of processes that are time sensitive, and you have KPIs and goals that you need to achieve in order to do that. Now, if I wanted to look at this holistically, within Apromore, we give you out of the box dashboards, and within this particular phase of the process, what I wanted to kind of call out here is that from a resource standpoint, we can see that the roles that are involved in this phase of that process, we can see that the case officer is the heavily overutilized role, right? It's 41% utilized, where the next one is at 3%, right? So there's a big variance here, and this is what's causing some of the potential bottlenecks and the long wait times. And if I looked at the controls that we have in place and the KPIs that we've wanted to achieve, right? So approving and rejecting provisional credit within 24 hours. Our goal is 95%, but our attainment is only at 65%. Rejection is at 20%. And then if I looked at the segregation of duties, and this is specific to the same role can't open the case or approve a provisional credit as well as check a provisional credit, right? So those are where there might be putting the company at risk. So our stance, our policy stance, compliance stance is that we have 100% compliance. We're at, here I can see that we have a segregation duty, and we're only at 90% compliance. So I applied a specific compliance rule to continuously monitor that, and I have just on segregation duty alone, I have 2,800 violations of that particular control, right? So this is putting the company at risk. So now that I've identified some of the potential bottlenecks, I'm going to go back out and zoom out on the end-to-end process. Now, now that we've identified a potential area where we can apply AgentForce to, before actually designing, writing code, whatever it is, how can we now simulate it to see what the overall impact is to the process? And this is where the simulation comes in. I can take the discovered process map and convert it into a BPMN model, and then use this model and save it so that I can start to create a baseline for this process and compare it to my future state. When I do save this BPMN model, I'm also including all of the metadata that I discovered in the process. So that's the number of resources, the various roles, the time it takes to execute, the wait times, etc. I'm automatically including that in my BPMN model. And I went ahead and already did that for time's sake. But so here's my current state, my as is. And I'll just go ahead and zoom in so that you can see a little bit more. And these are the 6 steps that we wanted to look at. Now, as far as the simulation parameters, as I said, we've included all of that, from the different customer types to the origin to location to the timing of each task, the number of roles that we see. So we have 11 case officers, 4 CSRs, and so forth, right? Like, we've already included all of that. And if I look at each one of these, I can see that the case officer is assigned to performing this particular task, and it's taking them on average 2.5, let's say 2.4 hours, right? And so forth, right? So I can then generate an event log or simulate an event log, and this will serve as our baseline. I can save the as is state and create a what if scenario now. And in this scenario, I'm essentially taking the different roles that we had, and now I'm applying or inserting AgentForce in this process. And during my design, and because of how I've trained and created the AgentForce component, now we're able to then remove certain parts of the process, the check policies, because that will be inherent when I create the new solution. And so I went ahead and did that for several of the steps, but I'll show you real quickly how you would reconfigure this. So before it was the case officer, but now I'm going to apply AgentForce. And instead of 2.4 hours, we know that they can do this job pretty quickly, and it'll probably take them a minute to calculate the provisional credit, right? Because they have access to all of the backend systems, the APIs, and they can do this at a much more rapid rate. So now I can then save this and then simulate the model again, which will then generate the future state. I can also, just if I wanted to, I could also take a look and compare the two models, and just to visualize and make sure that I understand what the existing to the to be or the what if. But now I can take those simulated logs that I have and do a side-by-side comparison of those in my simulation dashboard. And this is where I start to understand what is the impact of doing this change and applying AgentForce. So here, if you remember, the case duration initially was 1.6 months and the case cost was 1.5K. By applying AgentForce, we were able to reduce the overall case duration to 20 hours. And the reason being is that even though we only took a portion of that process, the case officer was already overutilized. Now that we've freed up some of their time, it actually had an upstream and downstream impact to the overall end-to-end process, right? And not only did it help us meet our stated goal, but it also achieved where we were able to reduce some of the overhead of all of the inefficiencies of back and forth work and making sure that we were reducing the errors. On top of that, not only should I understand what the value is, but I need to also understand if there's any downstream impact. If I automated this process, am I pushing the bottleneck further down the road? So in this case, as again, we really targeted the case officer in that process. So when we applied AgentForce, we were able to reduce their utilization to 74%. But now that we're approving provisional credits much faster and so forth, it had a downstream impact on two other resources, the documentation specialist. But we still have overhead. But now I understand what that impact is. It went from 39% to 45%, and the dispute resolution analyst went from 58 to 67%. So understanding not only your current state and what the value is of the solution, but also understanding what the impact is downstream. So now that I have that, now I feel very confident that, hey, applying AgentForce is the right thing, and I know exactly where to do it. And so this is where now Valerie will take over, and let me pull open the PowerPoint for you. And Valerie will walk you through the AgentForce demonstration.
Yes. So we will go in Salesforce and really see, using that use case as an example, how AgentForce is able to help the case officer who is struggling and who is currently the bottleneck, as Jesse just showed us. Before we dive in, just a quick overview of the evolution of automation that most organizations went through so far. And so the difference as well of what the agentic AI era is bringing us into, right? Because most of automations that organizations currently have are task-based, trigger-based. if you think about Salesforce, I'm thinking about flows here. Oh, I lost
Sorry.
we lost the slide. Doesn't matter. Uh, so slowly but surely, all the organizations started to have more and more automations, more and more flows, and then the departments had triggers together and be able to orchestrate how they work from with a case to another throughout the process from one department to another. And now we had intelligent automation using AI enhanced documents or data handling as well. Most of organizations already have that. But now with the agents, all of that is already in place through automations is still good. Using agents doesn't mean you need to replace all your current flows that you have in place currently. It's just adding on top of everything you have, and you will improve the way you work altogether. Because the main difference between using automation through flows, for example, and an agent is that the flows will be triggered based, task based, the process phase based. But with an agent, it's really goal oriented. So you're not just telling, do this task when this happens. It's really your main goal and your role is to be able to fix this case. And these are the many ways you can use to get to that goal and to achieve your goal and close the case as quickly as possible, right? And then it will learn as the more and more the goal is reached, how it was reached, and then it will improve with time as well. And as a case officer, you can look at all the different KPIs to really show, but Fred will show that later at the end of the webinar regarding looking at all the webinars through a dashboard. And really to understand AgentForce itself, what an AI agent is, if you go to the next slide, please, Jesse. So you can have really 5 attributes to describe an agent. As I said, first you will give it a role. Like what is your job and what is your main goal, right? And what job should you do? And then what data can you have access to? The way you will handle the permissions of an agent is the same way you would in Salesforce for a human user, right? So you can specify which data they have access to. You can specify which permissions they have, what type of action they can do. And then the different actions they will do is using those flows and using Apex code and using templates you will have created beforehand for them as well. So they will have many different ways to act and to reach the goal and the role you gave them. And then you have, of course, guardrails. There are the things that they should never do, that should never communicate to the client. You can mention that as well. And you can put those guardrails very easily just by using prompts, just by using natural language instructions that I will show you in a minute. And then finally, you can decide which channel they can use to communicate and to reach those goals. So how they will communicate directly to the customers, or will it stay internal and will it just be the help directly to the case officer, and will they perhaps not at all communicate with the customers? That is a possibility as well. And all of that happens on top of what is called the Einstein trust layer. If I have some time, I will go through that. But keep in mind that it's using your data and it's leveraging large language models to use a logic and to go reach that goal that you gave it. But all of your data is safe and will remain in your environment. It will never be displayed to an LLM at all costs. So I'll go ahead and I'll do the little demo, continuing with the example of the use case we had. So we have someone going through a flood situation, and what we want to do is close this case as soon as possible, provide the provisional credit to the person as fast as possible as well. So I will share my screen. There you go. Please, guys, let me know once you see the screen.
All
You
good.
see it? Excellent. Excellent. So here we have Selma. So Selma, just like me back in 2019, went through a flood and she did all the claim. And through that claim, a case was opened for a provisional credit. Selma really needs that provisional credit ASAP. So as you can see here, I'm technically a case officer would receive a case like this. So it's a support case for provisional credit, went through flood, need urgent provisional credit. And now technically, I would need to go and calculate the provisional credit that this specific client has access to or could have access to. Now here, I don't need to do that at all because it was already calculated. As soon as the case was open, the agent had the instruction to calculate it. And it could do so by accessing multiple different data through multiple different sources. And so through integrations and APIs, it does have access to that data and is able to, within seconds or in a minute, have the amount that Selma has access to. So we can see here her maximal value is 200,000. But technically, we don't want to offer that right off the bat. The insurance company prefers to offer perhaps 90% of that amount to get started. So Selma very quickly received the first email communication. So she received this here, right there. This is the email she got. So dear Selma, I'm writing regarding your insurance claim. This is the insurance claim number, filed on this date. And then this is your case number and the amount, right? So here, this email could have been sent by a flow, and it was sent by a flow, but that flow was triggered by the agent to send it as soon as the case was created and the amount was calculated as well. So here, Selma could decide to accept the offer, or she could also chat with an agent. And here we don't want to use the agent just for calculating. Why stop there, right? We could also use it to negotiate the provisional credit as well, to again improve the process of provisional credit altogether. So here, if Selma clicks on this button right here, she will be redirected to the website where she will be able to chat with the agent, and AgentForce is behind that. But here, because I really want to show you the back end of it and the logic the agent is going through when responding, I'm going to bring you in the back end right here. So let's go in the agent builder. So whenever you are in Salesforce, you want to create an agent, you will set it up here. So the first thing I want to show you is on the left-hand side of the screen. You see here the different topics that an agent has access to. So this agent can not only manage cases, it can also do other things that we decided to add. And to add additional topics, you could click on new and select a new topic right away. So you can make your agent evolve with time and make him do additional things as we go and as you want to improve your processes. As you can see here, all the different topics, some of them have a little earth icon right here. This means it's coming from a Salesforce template. So more and more as we go with all the new releases, there are more and more out of the box topic templates that organizations can use, which is pretty handy because it's all done for you. And these are just use cases that we know that most organizations will use. But for the specific provisional credit case management, it was a little more custom style. So it's this one right here. So let's open it. Inside a topic, you can see a topic as, let's say, a role that you're giving the agent. So this is your new role, and it's around a specific topic. Here you can see the description of that topic, right? So you are a negotiating tool, right? You handle customer inquiries through actions. You can update, you can provide and calculate provisional credits, and you can negotiate it, right? And this is all explained through, as I said earlier, natural language, right? And you can update it, you can improve it with time. You fall into prompt engineering at this point, perhaps, but it's very easy to improve with time since it's just text like this. Same way you would talk to ChatGPT, perhaps. Here, the scope is your job is to help customers retrieve case information, you provide the provisional credit, and you negotiate those. And additionally, I can add instructions. I can give it as much context as possible for it to be really, really efficient, right? So here in the extraction, what like a case is a record. I explain to the agent how the organization is using cases. I explain that it needs to acknowledge and validate user concerns with empathy and professionalism. I can add as much information here as I want. Uh, I want to specify that the date formats need to be in this specific format. Here in our specific use case, remember it's a negotiating tool here. So what we said is once we have the amount, always offer 90% of the provisional credit. If it's rejected, go to 95. If it's rejected again, go to 97.5. And then once we have also other instructions saying if it still doesn't work, you can escalate to a human. All right. And so let's go and see how the chat will react. And on the center piece here, you will see the logic that is used by the agent as I go. So remember, I'm Selma. I received my email. I clicked on chat with an agent. And here, like, I'm in a flood crisis. So I really need money fast. So I'm going to go and ask, like, I need 300K provisional credit now, please. So let's see what it will do and how it will react. So as you can see, on the left, on the center, it already identified that, okay, this is a case management topic. Remember, it has many different topics, but now it identified, okay, this is a case management topic. These are all my instructions, and these are all the different actions that I can do within that topic. So now one of the instructions we had was, if you are not sure about who this person is, ask for the case number. If you don't have the case number, ask for the email. Now here, the case number, it's telling me it should be in the email you have received prior to this chat. So yes, absolutely, it wasn't there. So I'm going to copy it and paste it here. Again, if I could find it, it would help me say, oh, it's in the email, or give me your email address and I'll find your case. Now it's analyzing my request, and now it's giving me all the information about the case that was open for this. It's offering me the same provisional credit that was in my email, right? It's offering me 180K, same thing I had previously. And now I'm going to say, no, I need 300K. It's going to analyze it. Remember, the instructions we gave it was it's supposed to go now a little higher and then a little higher in percentages. Now it's offering me 190K. No, this doesn't work for me. Like, I have nowhere to sleep. I have 2 kids. Uh, I need to hire a general contractor. Like, please help with 300K. Like, I need help. I'm stressed out. I'm in a flood. I understand the urgency of your situation. We can provide 200 really as our final offer. Would you accept this? And then I could say no, I need 300K, which at this point, it was the final offer. So the instructions is to escalate to a human agent. So it's going to tell me that it was unfortunately the maximum amount I could have access to. It's going to escalate the case to a human. And again, all the logic is seen here that you can follow. Now, 200K, like, okay, you know what? 200K is not so bad. I'll take it now, right? Because I need money now. I need money now. So it's going to confirm that this is the 200K that if I accept. Usually in a chat on the website, you wouldn't see those buttons like this. Since I'm in the back end, this is what we see. But here I'll just say I confirm. And then finally, it will do all the different steps required to finalize this. So we had the negotiation done, and then thank you for accepting. Confirmation email has been sent. I'm going to check my emails right now because, I'm Selma. And here I just got this email with the amount credited, the date, direct deposit to my bank account. That's great. And so within minutes, I was able to fix my provisional credit, and I'm in a crisis, but I was able to get money quickly from my insurance company. And now I'm quite happy, right? So again, I just wanted to come back to the topic itself, right? I'm inside the topic of case management. These are the instructions that I can give, but I also have different types of action that I can provide right here. And so as soon as I know that perhaps the agent could help me with this particular action that I need to do manually, I could go and create a flow that does it and give the instructions to the agent to do this specific action when this context happen or this situation happens. And so this is how you can have multiple different agents working together, or one main agent having multiple topics, and really be able to make it evolve. But perhaps some organizations are not that comfortable to get starting with AI agents that are fully autonomous, like the one I'm showing you right now. So another way to do that, and for change management purposes inside your organizations, most companies will want to get started just with having an AgentForce agent helping internal employees, right? So I have another example here of someone asking for provisional credit. His name is Eric, and he also needs urgent provisional credit. But instead of asking the agent to do everything autonomously, I could just, as a case officer, ask for help with my own personal assistant, my own little agent. So here the agent, just by clicking this here, it sees that I'm currently looking at a case. So I could right off the bat get started and ask it to summarize the specific case that I just received. It's going to look at all the different information. And again, even the answer it will give me, this can be set up in the first place so that it really gives me everything I know I need to receive whenever I ask for this. So the reply that I get here can be set up previously through a prompt template. Now here I could ask to draft email with provisional credit, right? And it's going to draft the first email for me. Yes, I'm going to provide the case number. And then here, I could go in the setup and say, when I'm looking at a case, don't ask for the case, just take for granted that I'm looking at this particular case and that I want to draft the email for this particular case. All of that can be improved just by sending instructions, right? So now it's crafting my email and it looks like something went wrong, of course. So it doesn't matter. You get the idea. But usually with your organizations, you can get started with AgentForce just by having it as your assistant, improve it with time. And then once you're ready and you see that it works perfectly, this is when you can make it autonomous in front of your customers. And then from there, continue to monitor it and continue to make it evolve and improve it. And how you monitor it can be done by multiple different ways. There are ways to monitor it in Salesforce, but there are ways to monitor it using Apromore tool as well. So back to you, Fred, regarding this specific topic.
Thank you, Valerie. This was really interesting. If I can have presenter right, I'm going to share my screen at my turn, and I'm going to go back to where we are. At this point, some of you may have a number of ideas on how this could be implemented into your organization, but you may not know which process is the best suited to do that, or you may want to have an estimate of like what is the potential ROI and potential effort to implement. Levio has developed a framework. I'll go with it quickly, but basically, if relevant, we can go through your value chain and understand the different processes supporting this value chain in your organization. You can see here that there's a color coding. What we can help you is to evaluate the current maturity level of your process, understand where you stand. So some process, as an example, have low data availability, and you don't really understand the process. That probably means that it's an ad hoc process, and the best next step is to just define. If there's no data, you don't understand, you bring a business analyst there, and then you basically do the traditional mapping of the process. At the other extreme, if there's a lot of data, like if all of your process is already digitalized and you have a good understanding, you have done a process mining project, you're optimized the workflow, what the next step is to automate it as much as possible. So um, this is an example of the methodology we use. Based on this understanding of how much data is available or not, and how much you understand or not, we then ask you to weight on a scale of 100%. What is the relative importance for that specific process for compliance, and then performance, and within performance, the 3 dimensions that we mentioned. And we challenge you so that you gave us a score about what is your current satisfaction. So in this example, this process, like this customer self-satisfaction is 65%. But in order to do that, we basically go with you through what are the key outcome of your process. Is it customer satisfaction? Is it reducing process costs? Is it improving, like here it's optimize inventory? So we basically help you understand what is important for you to improve. Why is it important? What is your baseline? And to be honest, many organizations, they say they want to improve stuff, but they, when we ask them like quality, what's your percentage of defects, sometimes it is difficult to understand the current baseline, or they may have many baseline, because across the organization there's different departments that measure things differently. But long story short, with this data, we can help you prioritize. So in this example, we had 3 different processes. We have on the Y scale the implementation effort versus the current satisfaction. So obviously something that is low satisfaction, low effort would probably have a higher priority than something else. And then you can bring different peoples in your organization, like maybe your risk management or compliance officer, internal audit would be able to understand the compliance percentage of different processes, versus someone else. Quality cycle time would be maybe your uh, customer support people. Operational costs might be by different people, but basically, through this exercise, we have all of the data that helps you understand what you should focus on in terms of improvement and what should be the priority between that. Um, if you want to have more information, I will leave this slide here so you can take notes of our contact information, and feel free to reach to any of us for further discussions. But we have a few minutes left. I'm not sure if there were questions. I unfortunately cannot see the QA board, but maybe we can go through a few questions. It's already 1 o'clock, but some of you want to stay a little bit, or it will be into the recording. We can answer some questions for you.
Yeah.
And if I may, if some people are interested in learning more about AgentForce, because we didn't get the chance to really go over all the different features of AgentForce today, we're really focused on our specific use case. We are planning to do many more webinars about AgentForce, videos as well for demos. So stay tuned. Levio is coming with more AgentForce stuff. And do
Hey,
not
Fred.
hesitate to reach out on LinkedIn as well. It will be really my pleasure to connect and discuss AgentForce with you.
Yeah. Hey, Fred. I did see 2 questions. One says, how does this work when you don't have any data?
If there are part of your process that, like, you're blind because there's no data, we can create synthetic activity. So if we know that an activity, a manual activity, will start after the end of something, that we have a timestamp, and end before, at the beginning of the other one, like we can calculate how much that manual step took. But I would say that that's more and more a red flag. If you believe that we're migrating into a world where we're moving into automated process, and if there's no data, that needs that there's a lot of manual work, that should be kind of question mark. Say, okay, maybe I need to digitalize this piece of the process because it's all manual, and I'm vulnerable to people leaving the organization and leave with the knowledge. And having no data is an issue in itself that should be looked at.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the next question is tied to that, which is, what is the main risk of doing projects like this?
Um, like the main risk, I see or I've seen in the past is alignment. I mentioned that digital like process intelligence, a combination of different techniques. In many organizations, there is an existing RPA team. There is sometimes an existing process mining team. Now there is a team that is tasked with AI, and what I see is that organization will sometimes fail to execute properly with when all of these teams are not working together. There needs to be an owner for process performance, and this is oftentimes like in an organization there's not one owner of process performance, but that's something that I'm sure will evolve over time as we're continuing a journey to digitalization, and someone needs to be leading this. Otherwise you have disjuncted initiatives, and that becomes counterproductive. So I would say alignment at the beginning of the project is the most important to affiliated the risks.
Great, great. And I think one last question just came in. It says, we have messy data. How difficult is it to do process mining with messy data? So that's a question I get very often with many customers. I don't ever come into an account where they say, "Hey, we have perfectly clean data ready to go." So you're not alone. One of the benefit of Apromore is that we built it with that in mind. Um, so it's a completely no-code platform that has a built-in ETL tool. So no longer do you need to do any sort of SQL queries, Python scripting, anything like that. It's a complete configuration-based data modeling, extraction, merging, transforming, and loading. And it's literally you can do it from a matter of hours to versus weeks to months when you're looking at uh, other platforms out there. So I think we've gone over our time. So for any questions that we didn't get to, we'll be more than happy to answer those questions, and we'll send you direct emails with those answers. But Fred, I guess we can wrap it up.
Thank you very much. Thank you all, and
Thanks,
we're looking.
everybody.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Have a nice day.
Bye.